Hello students, I hope you are doing great. Welcome back to the daily news analysis with your educator Prithviraj Singh. We'll be understanding the important news articles of 12th May 2022. Let us begin with the same. And here, as I said, we cover the Hindu and the Indian Express, two of the most prominent newspapers in the country. On the very front page of the Hindu, there was an article about the pardon power or pardoning powers of the governor and the president. A very technical argument. In order to understand this article, I'll just clarify you the concept of pardon. Now guys, pardoning powers of the president means those powers which deal with the clemency petitions, right? Daya Yachika. So pardoning powers of the president are mentioned under, answer me in the comment box, it is article, yes, article 72. That of governor is mentioned under article, you just add 89, you will arrive at article 161. So pardoning powers are those powers of the president and the governor which actually results into clemency, right? Now pardoning powers are mentioned in the constitution under article 72 for the president and 161 for the governor. Now if I compare the pardoning powers of the president and the governor, I'll find that the governor, the president of the state, the president of the union has the pardoning powers with regard to all the court-martial cases. Court-martial cases, the governor cannot use the pardoning powers over the court-martial cases. Number one. Number two, president can use the pardoning powers over all the offenses of the union law. Offenses of union law, whereas governor cannot use his pardoning powers over the offenses of the union law. The third thing is that president can pardon a death sentence. Very, very important, students. You all must be very clear about this because many books actually confuse you. So therefore, please be alert and attentive. President can pardon death sentences, whereas governor cannot pardon death sentences. However, now here is the catch. However, the governor can pardon, or even use other powers like remission, can remit, can use the power of respite or reprieve with regard to other punishments, but not that punishment, right? So that means governor cannot pardon a death sentence. However, he can pardon, remit, respite, reprieve over other punishments, right? But not death punishment. Now the pardon powers are of different types or different forms. The first is called as pardon. Pardon means to let the convict free, to set the convict free. That means absolving all the the disqualifications, all the punishments from the convict. That means he is as good as a free person, right? So pardon sets the convict free. That means now he is out of the jail and he is as good as normal person. It disqualifies all the punishments, it absolves all punishments, convictions, disqualifications. The second is commutation. in commutation, you change the nature of the crime. You change the nature of the punishment, changing the character or the nature of the punishment. So always remember two things when you're reading the pardoning powers. The first is either you are changing the character or you are reducing the time period. Correct. Now it would be more clear to you when you will understand the concept. So when you are changing the nature, let's say death sentence has been commuted to life imprisonment. So ये एक तरीके commuted power, commutation है, right? You have changed the nature of the punishment from death sentence. It has been commuted to life imprisonment, right? So that means you have changed the character or the nature of the punishment. I hope you are getting my point. Moving ahead, remission. Now remission means you change the time, you reduce the time period. You reduce the time period, let's say, but not the nature. For example, 20 years of rigorous life imprisonment, rigorous imprisonment has been reduced to 10 years of rigorous imprisonment, right? So यहाँ पे you have changed the time period from 20 years to 10 years, correct? Similarly, you have other power like that of respite. Respite in Hindi means rahat. For example, it is a scorching heat, it's a sunny day today, and rain came as a respite, so rahat mili garmi se, right? So respite means rahat. So for example, if a prisoner in jail is physically ill or mentally ill, for example, a convict, a female prisoner gets pregnant during the jail, or a prisoner becomes mentally insane. So in these cases where there is physical ailment, a typical physical condition, in these cases you change what is required, you will change the character of the punishment, because the person who is in this physical state needs the care at this point of time, right? So therefore you will be changing the character of the punishment, right? And not the time period, right? For example, let's say 20 years of rigorous imprisonment has been, the character has been changed because of the physical condition to 20 years of simple imprisonment, correct? So in this sense the time period is same, but what has changed is the character or the nature of the punishment, because of the physical condition, because of the typical physical condition of the prisoner, you have changed the character of the punishment, correct? Although the time period is same, 20 years, but you have changed the nature of the punishment from rigorous imprisonment to simple imprisonment. I hope it is clear. So these are the 4 types of the pardon powers which are being used by both the President under Article 72 and Governor under Article 161. The power of pardon, commutation, remission, respite. There is one more power, pardon power, by the name of reprieve. Reprieve means putting a stay over the punishment. For example, putting a stay. For example, the case of the death punishment or the capital punishment of Kulbhushan Jadhav, who was a Indian officer being trapped by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, being held by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, but then the case went to International Court of Justice, right? So by the time the International Court of Justice would give its verdict, the punishment was being put to stay, right? So there was a stay on the punishment, right? So that is called as reprieve, putting a stay, right? So these are the 5 pardon powers of the president and governor. And the difference you have learned: governor cannot pardon the court martial cases, he cannot pardon the offenses of the union law, he cannot pardon death sentence. Very, very important. Governor cannot pardon death sentence. It is the exclusive power of President of India. However, governor can pardon, remit, respite, reprieve the other punishments, but not death sentence. Right. I hope it is clear. Now we are in the position to actually appreciate and understand this article. So Supreme Court has slammed the central government that only president has pardon powers. Now central government is actually saying in this article, you can see that the president and not the Tamil Nadu governor has exclusive power to decide on the plea for pardon by Rajiv Gandhi assassination convict, and this drew flag from the Supreme Court. Means the government is saying that the pardoning powers are the exclusive power of the president and not the governor, and that is the reason why the Supreme Court has slammed the government over this claim. Now guys, Rajiv Gandhi was killed in the year 1990, and you all would be knowing that he was being assassinated in the state of Tamil Nadu, and the judgment came in the year 1998, where the assassination happened in 1990. Judgment came by the High Court of Tamil Nadu in 1998. Then they filed an appeal in Supreme Court. Supreme Court again declared death sentence. Then they filed the mercy petition in the same year with the president. Mercy petition with the President of India, because if a convict is not satisfied with the judgment of Supreme Court, then he can always file a clemency petition or a mercy petition with the president, and the president can use the pardoning powers under Article 72. Right. Now the decision didn't came up till 2012. 10 years passed, and then the clients actually hired Ram Jethmalani, the most prominent lawyer of the country. However, he is no more. In 2012, when Ram Jethmalani appeared for his clients, then he said to your lordship that, your lordship, it's been 10 years, my clients are daily rising up only to hear that whether they would be alive or dead, and this in turn has violated their right to life. That is Article 21. So every day they have to wake up just to listen whether they would be alive or dead, because it has taken almost 10 years and no decision for the mercy petition has yet come, right? So therefore justice delayed is justice denied, and it is a clear violation of Article 21. Therefore, your lordship, I plea you to commute the death sentence of the Rajiv Gandhi convicts to life imprisonment, and your lordship was convinced. The lordship was convinced, and the death sentence of the Rajiv Gandhi killers was commuted to life imprisonment. That means the nature was changed. The moment it was changed to life imprisonment, the ball went into the court of Tamil Nadu High Court. Now Tamil Nadu High Court, interestingly, used the remission powers, and you all know in remission you reduce the time frame. They used the remission powers for the Rajiv Gandhi assassinators or Rajiv Gandhi killers, and they remitted the life imprisonment to 0 years. That means technically they have set them free. Remission is actually you reduce the time period, correct? Although, and the governor has reduced the time period from life imprisonment to 0 years. Now you would wonder that how come, sir, what is the difference between pardon and remission? Because in pardon also the convict is being set free. Then how remission is different from pardon? Guys, it is different from pardon in the sense that the disqualification will still follow. For example, the person, the movements of the convicts which are being declared, are being remitted, would be actually traced. Their fundamental rights would be restricted, correct? So now the case went again to the Supreme Court of India. Now the Supreme Court of India declared that you cannot use remission powers for the heinous crimes like assassination of the Prime Minister. So the governor of Tamil Nadu, when he used the remission power and reduced the time frame from life imprisonment to 0 years, was being slashed by the Supreme Court of India, saying that remission powers cannot be used for heinous crimes like that of assassination of the Prime Minister of the country, correct? But as you know that Tamil Nadu government, there is still one convict there, AG Perari Valan, and he has been in the jail for almost 3 decades now, and the government of Tamil Nadu believes that his conduct in the jail is ethical, it's fair, and he has also learned many things. I mean, he has also done his bachelor's, master's, he has read many books, and because of this reason, because of his good conduct in the jail, he must be set free, and the governor must use the pardon powers and set him free. Now the central government is saying that only the president can declare the pardoning powers in such cases, and the governor cannot. Whereas Supreme Court says that governor also have the pardon powers, correct? So the issue is a tussle between the Supreme Court and the central government. Central government do not want the Rajiv Gandhi killers to be set free, whereas Tamil Nadu government is actually asking to declare them, to set them free because of their 3 decades in the jail and their fair conduct. And even the central government is saying that only the president has a power of pardon, right, and not the governor. Supreme Court says that you are wrong on this claim, but that is the one thing is to be made very clear, that Supreme Court itself has said that the remission powers cannot be used for the heinous crimes, number one. Number two, we also know that governor cannot pardon death sentences. Governor cannot pardon death sentences, and originally it was a death sentence. Are you getting? Originally it was a death sentence declared by the Tamil Nadu High Court as well as the Supreme Court of India. However, then it was being commuted to life imprisonment when Ram Jethmalani actually won the case, and then it was to be remitted to 0 years, but then it was being slashed by the Supreme Court, saying that you cannot use the remission powers for the heinous crimes, correct? So we'll see that which way this would go, but then it is very much clear that if government says that only the President of India has the pardoning powers, then there would be no utility at all of Article 161, which is the pardoning power of the governor, and then it would become a dead letter of the Constitution, correct? So a very important article, and I hope all your doubts now are settled about the pardoning powers of the President and governor and the case of Rajiv Gandhi assassination. Now moving ahead, 72, 61, all these things which I just explained are being mentioned on the screen. Now the question comes that, is the power of President a judicial power or executive power when he is actually deciding the cases. So it is a judicial power, right, of the president, right? Correct. Number two, the second thing comes is that is the decision of the president, can the decision of the president be challenged in the court? Well, the answer is yes and no, and I mean it, because there is a limited judicial review available for the decision of president under Article 72. This means if in case the decision of the president is malified, is blatantly biased, then the Supreme Court can knock it down or can scrutinize it, right? So there is a limited judicial review, and only when the decision of the president is malified, blatantly biased, correct, and he can exercise his powers under Article 72 only with the concurrence or only on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, right? And it was been declared in Maruram versus Union of India. So in Maruram versus Union of India, it was been declared by the Supreme Court that Article 72 is to be exercised only on the advice of the cabinet. That means the central government, right? The cabinet, the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, and not the cabinet, it is the whole ministry, and the advice of the government is binding on the president, correct. The second case is that of KM Nanavati versus State of Bombay, where the governor granted reprieve under Article 161 So in this sense, there are many aspects which has to be looked upon. We also know about the Domestic Violence Act, but again, Domestic Violence Act is in direct conflict with actually section 375, or because again, the Domestic Violence Act deals with all the abuses, be it a physical or emotional abuse at home, in a relationship, right? However, it is a civil offense. I mean, it attracts civil penalty and not criminal punishment, right? So therefore we have to ponder on this. Now, a marital rape is when a woman is forced by her husband to engage in sexual relations after marriage. So whenever it is committed against her will and her consent is absent. Guys, this is a flowchart of the events which which deals with the criminalization of marital rape in Delhi High Court. So it starts from 2015, where the petition to criminalize marital rape were filed in Delhi High Court. Then 2017, the central government says that criminalizing marital rape may destabilize the pure institution of marriage. Then 2022, Delhi High Court began hearings in the case. Then this year, January 13, the center tells the High Court that it is in talks with the stakeholders. January 17, High Court asked the center to clarify its position. February 1st, relooking at the earlier stand, center tells High Court, and May 11, the High Court delivers split verdict. Right? So it is still not a crime. Now, how did the exception on marital rape find its way into the IPC? Well, as you all know that it was being prepared by Lord Macaulay, and he was the chairperson of the first Law Commission, and based on his findings, his recommendation, the Indian Penal Code came into being in the year 1860, right? So in those days, in the colonial era, it was being an exception, right? I mean, it was an exception to section 375. Although in 1860, the first version of the rules, the marital rape exception was applicable to women over 10 years of age. Then it was being increased to 18 years of age, right? I mean, that means below, if it is beyond 18 years, then it would not be considered as a rape under section 375 IPC. Although there are, if I talk about the history of marital rape in law in India, we also have DV Act, Domestic Violence Act 2005, and it only provides for civil remedies. As I just mentioned, that it provides for civil remedies, and there is no way for marital rape victims in India to initiate criminal proceedings. Okay, so criminal proceedings cannot be initiated by the marital rape victims against their perpetrator. Even marital rape exception was rejected by Law Commission report of 2000. So this is an interesting article, important one. Even there are many arguments in favor, right? Like the Domestic Violence Act has two problems due to which it is considered inadequate. First, definitely it actually provides for the civil remedies and not the criminal remedies. Then divorce is an option is certainly available to women. However, it is not nearly adequate when the issue of rape is concerned, right? So marital rape violates various facets of equal protection, as I mentioned, Article 14 and 21. Arguments against, well, many argue that the issues related to married couples are covered in the Protection of Women for Domestic Violence Act 2005, and actually if you declare it a crime, then there would be too much interference of the state in the private space, or as they say euphemistically, that it is allowing the state into the bedroom. Well, criminalizing marital rape would become a weapon of abuse in the hands of unscrupulous wives. So it may also be misused by unscrupulous wives against their husband, right? So there are both sides. Now moving to the next article. Although many countries have already declared it a crime, and 77 out of 185 countries have criminalized the rape through legislation, and there are only 10 countries as of today, like India, Ghana, Indonesia. They still have marital rape is not a crime in these countries. Right? Moving to the next article, which talks about inflation. Inflation is the biggest challenge now, and the interest rate increases to stem rising prices could, however, dent fledgling demand recovery. Guys, we all know that in inflation, which we have time and again discussed, that inflation is the general increase in the level of prices, right? So there is a general increase in the level of prices when the demands are high because of the excessive money supply or high money supply in the market. You have more money with you, and this in turn increases your demands. When the demands are high and supply constraint is there, that means supply mismatch is there. Supply constraint means there are more high demands, but the supply is not matching the demand, then it would increase the level of prices, right? And this general increase in the level of prices is called as inflation. Now let's say, what would be the impact on value of money? Would it decrease or increase? Let us understand. Let's say yesterday you went to a vegetable market, 1 kg of tomato were at 35 rupees. Today the same quantity, 1 kg tomato, is 40 rupees. So definitely the prices have increased. If I compare that in 1 rupee, in 1 rupees yesterday I was able to purchase 1 by 35 kg of tomato yesterday. Today I am able to purchase in 1 rupee 1 by 40th kg of tomato. So which is lesser? Definitely this. The more the denominator, the lesser would be the result, right? So 1 by 40th is definitely lesser than 1 by 35, right? So that means the value of money degrades in inflation, correct? Now guys, we all know that the repo rate was also increased, and it's been after almost 2 years that the repo rate, the central government increased its repo rate, right? I'm explaining here, I'm writing here, repo rate. You all know that the repo rate have been increased from 4% to 4.4%. What is repo rate? The rate charged by the Reserve Bank of India over the loans that it gives to the commercial banks, right? So the money goes from RBI to the commercial banks in return of securities, the government securities, which can be traded by the RBI, and RBI has to sell them again to the commercial bank at a mutually decided fixed date and fixed rate, correct? And the interest rate charged by the RBI over the money that it lends to the commercial bank is called as repo rate. Now when you increase the repo rate, see here, when you increase the repo rate, the commercial banks would borrow less, because higher rates pe kaun borrow karega? They would borrow less. When they would borrow less, the money supply in the market would decrease. Where the money supply in the market would decrease, paise se paisa kam banega. That means the money multiplier effect would dampen, would weaken, and when the money multiplier effect would dampen, the money supply would reduce. In this way, it is called as contractionary monetary policy, and it would control the inflation. Because we have seen that inflation is overshooting, and the increase in the repo rate would reduce the borrowing by the commercial banks from the RBI. This in turn would reduce the money supply in the market, which in turn would dampen the money multiplier, and this would actually control the inflation, right? And in this way RBI sucks or absorbs excess liquidity from the market, right? And because inflation is excess liquidity, right, increased money supply, so by increasing the repo rate or by increasing the rates, you know, the money supply in the market is lessened, and in this sense RBI absorbs the excess liquidity from the market, or it sucks the excess liquidity from the market, thereby controlling the inflation, right? So this is the concept, right? Now we have seen that after the the COVID vaccination rollout, the economy across the world has recovered, and it is on the higher trajectory now, and this has actually led to the higher inflation, right? Plus the government fiscal stimulus packages have also come up, which has also increased the money supply in the market. The government is also at the same time concerned about increasing the employment opportunities, and in this sense it has increased the inflation. Well, as far as the monetary policy committee, inflation target is being set to 4% plus minus 2%, right? So the inflation tolerance limit on the higher side is 6%, and on the lower side it is 2%, right? So in this range the inflation should be there, which is tolerable inflation, right? And which is also called as benign inflation, good inflation, right? But now we know that the CPI inflation, the latest figures, it is crossing 6.1%, and if I talk about the WPI or wholesale price index, it is somewhere around 11.5%, right? So it is very, very high, and it has also crossed the tolerable limit set by the monetary policy committee, right? So this is the concern, right? So I hope it is clear, that my explanation is clear. Now we are in the stage to actually understand the article. So guys, inflation is now the biggest challenge for India's policymakers, and even the United States Department of Labor have recently revealed that the consumer prices have increased by 7.5 years, and guys, it is the highest recorded in the past 40 years. Increased, and this has resulted into the increased cost of labor, shortages of goods and services, so on and so forth. Now the reasons are definitely the COVID vaccine rollout, the fast recovery in all round demand from consumers, and this recovery was further fueled by billions of dollars pumped by the government to not only provide relief to consumers, so this is your fiscal stimulus, and companies let go of employees and sharply curtailed production. In essence, the supply chain of the productions are being hurt, they are being hit, often spanning several countries and continents, right? Now impact of US inflation on India, definitely we are actually experiencing the imported inflation. And guys, when I've explained to you that when the repo rate is increased, it would actually lead to appreciation of rupee against dollar, right? That means the dollar would become stronger vis-a-vis rupee, right? And when the dollar would become stronger vis-a-vis rupee, appreciation is, let's say yesterday 1 US dollar was 75 rupees. Today 1 US dollar is 70 rupees, right? So this is called as appreciation, right? In this way the dollar has become stronger compared to the rupee. Now what would be the impact on exports? Now it is very clear that yesterday on every export the exporter was getting 75 rupees. Today he is getting just 70 rupees, so it's a clear loss of 5 rupees, right? So it would adversely impact the exports. But then definitely it is good for imports. The imports would increase, right? Because yesterday you are purchasing at 75 rupees, now you are purchasing at 70 rupees, right? So and this would actually in turn would increase the trade deficit, right? The trade deficit of the country, right? So therefore we are definitely experiencing the imported inflation. Even the US central bank will be hiking its interest rates through the year to tame the inflation, and as interest rates soar, the investors start pulling money out of the riskier investments like equities, commodities and foreign markets. As capital leaves around the world to be parked in American bank accounts, the Reserve Bank of India may be forced to hike its own interest rates to fight the flight of capital. Correct. So guys, this is an article from Indian Express. It's a must read. You can always read it. As I explained, that the appreciation would pose problems, for the export sector, and might end up hurting the revenues from exports and the overall GDP. The imported inflation might also, lead to flight of capital to the America, a country with a higher interest rate, right, leading to loss of potential capital for entrepreneurial opportunities in India. Moving to the next article from Indian Express. Now guys, there have been quakes being experienced on Mars, our neighbor. We all know that the solar system, we have Mercury, then Venus, then Earth, the third planet, and Mars. And all these 4 planets are terrestrial planets, means they have hard crust, they are formed of rocks and boulders, and they are also called as inner planets, because the planets outside this ring are called Jovian planets. They are made up of gases and liquids. Jovian planets. Example, Jupiter, so on and so forth. Saturn, Uranus and Neptune. Correct. Now Mars is our neighbor, and NASA has its Mars mission in the name of InSight Mars lander, and it has detected the largest quake on the surface of Mars. So they may ask you that what is the name of the NASA project? So it's InSight Mars lander. Guys, Mars does not have tectonic plates and its crust is a giant plate, right? So it doesn't have the tectonic plates. Its crust is a giant plate in itself, and therefore NASA notes that the Mars quakes are caused due to the stresses that cause rock fractures and faults. Right. Now these are the NASA's InSight mission. It is interior exploration using seismic investigations, geodesy and heat transport. Right, so this is the pictorial depiction of the InSight mission by NASA on Mars. Well, about Mars, it is the 4th planet from the Sun, as I just mentioned, and it's a dusty, cold, desert world with a very thin atmosphere, and it also has seasons as our planet. And one day of Mars, that means when it rotates on its axis, it takes a little over 24 hours, and its one revolution around the Sun takes 687 Earth days. It has no rings. Mars is also known as red planet because of the presence of ferrous oxide, iron oxide, right, FeO2. It's a terrestrial planet and is a thin atmosphere, right. So these are the expeditions on Mars. Even Russian European mission is called as ExoMars, which has got postponed, to 2022 over the coronavirus and technical difficulties, so on and so forth. Even India, sent successful mission over the Mars called as MOM. It's a Mars orbiter mission. However, we have not landed Mars, but then it's Mars orbiter mission. And India was the first Asian country and the 4th in the world after Roscosmos, NASA and the ESA to get to the planet, right? And China referred to India's successful Mangalyaan as the pride of Asia. Well, moving to the editorial section. So guys, we all know that American Supreme Court report has been leaked by the media, and this report seeks to abolish the abortion rights, which are constitutional rights in America. Now in 1973, in a case called as Roe versus Wade, Supreme Court of America declared that abortion is a constitutional right of a woman in America. But then now there have been many voices which seeks to dissolve and abolish the abortion right, because it goes against the the biological nature. So Roe versus Wade is very important case. Now Supreme Court, as of the Supreme Court leaked report goes, they want to overturn the landmark Roe versus Wade judgment, and many supporters of this, especially from the Republican states and the Republican Party, they say that go Roe Wade. Now this judgment of 1973 made abortion a constitutional right in America, but then this right is given to American women only when till trimester, the first trimester of pregnancy. So a US woman has a complete right to an abortion during the first trimester of pregnancy, and not post that, not after that. Well, while abortion is lawful in some way or the other in every province under law, now what would happen if Roe versus Wade is overturned? Well, abortion will not immediately become illegal nationwide. Instead, it would be up to every state to actually decide how much access women living in the state would have to abortion. Well, discussing about the legal status of abortions in India. Well, under the general criminal law of the country, that is IPC, voluntarily causing a woman with child to miscarry is an offense, right? It's an offense attracting a jail term of up to 3 years or fine or both, unless it was done in good faith, where the purpose was to save the life of a pregnant woman, right? So it may happen that the life of the pregnant woman is at risk, either the pregnant women or because of the fetus, possibly it is because of the medical condition, it has become compelling to the doctors to actually do the abortion. So it is done in a good faith, right? So unless it is being done in a good faith, it is an offense attracting a jail term of 3 years. Now there was also MTP Act. It says it is actually abbreviated as medical termination of pregnancy, which is an exception to IPC provisions which we just discussed above. And this law has been amended twice since, the most recent set of amendments being in year 2021, which has to some extent expanded the scope of law, right? So this is also MTP is also medical termination of pregnancy and done in good faith, right? So guys, you can just read this article in the Hindu. It's an important article, right? So that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session. Stay tuned for more such sessions. Press the bell icon for regular update. Wish you all the best. See you in the next class. Good day. Goodbye.